So this here is the rendered results from my shader. You can see there are ellipses painted onto the sphere. And so in the upper right hand corner I have a couple variables I can use to adjust these ellipses. So the first and foremost I have the utal, which blends the colors together and softens the hard edges, like so. So if I increase the utal, it'll become blurrier and blurrier. And if I set it back to 0, then I'll get hard edges again. For transformations, I can use UBD and UAD to either increase or decrease the amount of ellipses that get shown on the sphere. So if I increase UBD, that's going to decrease the number of ellipses on the sphere in the y direction, whereas if I decrease it, then what it's going to do is it's going to increase the amount of ellipses in the y direction, like so. And the opposite is true for UAD, whereas if I increase it, then it will decrease the amount of ellipses in the x direction, and if I decrease it, then it'll increase the amount of ellipses in the y direction. Although all of these two variables technically transform the ellipses, or do technically transform the ellipses, it doesn't seem to be a very practical way of doing it. So I added two other variables called uspace A and uspace B to more properly transform these ellipses without having to add or subtract the number of ellipses from the sphere. So what uspace A does is it adjusts the ellipses size on the x-axis. So if I decrease the uspace A, then the ellipses get longer on the x-axis until they connect and form this sort of stripe pattern. And if I increase it, then they start to get smaller, or their width starts to get smaller until they're kind of spherical, and then they're going to continue in the other direction. And so for U space B, however, it's on the other axis. So if I decrease it, then the ellipses will increase in the y direction until they form this other vertical stripe pattern. If I increase it, then it's going to flatten out and become kind of like a hamburger shape, like so. Yeah, and then play around with these variables a lot. It's pretty entertaining, for me at least.